Discover the incredible life-changing secrets of China's Hungry Ghost Festival, a touching journey into culture and healing. As Halloween approached, Sarah's little flower shop buzzed with excitement. She arranged vibrant bouquets that filled the air with a sweet and floral scent. But her heart was heavy. The town was preparing for its beloved Harvest Festival, a time when families gathered, laughter floated in the air, and the spirit of community surged. Yet, there was a nagging emptiness in Sarah's chest, a feeling intensified by her estranged father's disapproving gaze shadowing her ambitions. Her business was her lifeline, threading through the economic downturn gripping the small town. But to her father, a Vietnam veteran with a strict view of family priorities, Sarah's dreams felt like distractions. Family first, he'd often say, his voice echoing in her ears like the whisper of the autumn breeze. Everything shifted when she met the Yang family. New to the area, they ran a nearby farm, their eyes glimmering with stories of another world. It was at the shop, amongst tulips and daisies, that she learned of the Hungry Ghost Festival from Mrs. Yang. "It's a time to honor our ancestors and heal," she said, her voice warm and inviting. The tales of honoring lost loved ones struck a deep chord within Sarah. It was a reminder that those we love never truly leave us. They linger in memories and traditions. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As harvest preparations unfolded, Sarah felt the flicker of an idea take flame. What if she merged the Hungry Ghost Festival with the town's own harvest celebration? A way for everyone to remember those they lost while embracing new traditions. But when she presented her vision to the town council, a wave of apprehension washed over the gathered crowd. Murmurs of disapproval rose like an autumn wind. To them, this was an affront to their cherished customs, a leap into the unknown. The challenge ignited a spark within Sarah, propelling her to connect the community, even as her own father's face filled her thoughts. He was an anchor of the past, but his ideas felt stifling. The deeper she delved into the Yang family's traditions, the more she felt pulled toward healing. Not just for others, but for herself as well. Amidst whispers of resentment, Sarah unearthed family secrets tied to her father's past, unexplored sacrifices that shaped her present. The understanding brewed a whirlwind of emotion, the tightness in her chest mixed with a fierce determination that refused to flicker out. Even as a heart-wrenching tragedy struck just days before the festival, threatening to undo everything, she knew she needed to rise. Standing in her flower shop, surrounded by petals of hope and resilience, Sarah felt the weight of loss and disapproval press against her heart. She had to confront the bitterness that hung in the air, not just as a daughter striving to connect with her father, but as a woman seeking community. As night fell, Sarah prepared for a festival that teetered on the verge of transformation. The flickering candles casting shadows as they awaited the souls honored. She found herself at a crossroads. Would she unite a fractured community and mend her tenuous bond with her father? Or would the loss of dreams leave her stranded in resentment? The future hung in the balance, waiting for the first flickers of light to reveal their path. As dawn broke, a hush fell over Sarah's flower shop. The candles she had lit last night still flickered gently, casting an ethereal glow. Outside, the world was awakening, the colors of autumn painting the streets in vibrant yellows and reds. Today was the day, the fusion of her vision and a chance to unite the town through remembrance. Sarah stood behind her counter, her heart racing. She could already hear the distant sounds of laughter and chatter as townsfolk set up their booths, the anticipation electrifying the crisp air. But beneath her excitement was a nagging doubt, a voice whispering that maybe she wasn't enough, that she might fail to honor the spirits she hoped to invoke. Resolute, she inhaled deeply, allowing the sweet fragrance of her flowers to ground her. She thought of Mrs. Yang's gentle words. Every petal tells a story. Sarah pushed her forward, like a current pulling at her heart. As she walked outside, she was met with a flurry of colors and sounds. Families strolled by, some frowning at the flowers she had placed for the festival, flowers meant to honor memories, not just to beautify. The unease twisted deep in her stomach. Yet, she reminded herself of her purpose. The festival was not just hers. It belonged to the town. Sarah took a moment to lift her shoulders, absorbing the sights all around her. Laughter erupted from a group of children, their joy infectious. For a moment, it sparked hope within her. What if they could come together? What if she could show them that the Hungry Ghost Festival wasn't just foreign? What if it was filled with the same love and remembrance they already cherished? She approached Mrs. Yang and her family, who were busy setting up their traditional displays. They were hanging paper lanterns and stringing flowers in intricate patterns. "Are you ready?" Mrs. Yang asked, her eyes shining with encouragement. "I've been thinking, what if we shared stories today? Not just the past, but about how we can combine our traditions." "This could be something beautiful," Sarah suggested, her voice trembling slightly. Mrs. Yang's smile widened. "Yes, healing comes from sharing. Let us honor our ancestors and uplift each other." The enthusiasm in her voice was a burst of sunlight, urging Sarah on. As her confidence grew, Sarah grabbed a small microphone, heart pounding. She stepped onto a makeshift stage, made of hay bales, and cleared her throat. "Everyone, can I have your attention?" The crowd fell silent, turning their eyes on her. She could see the mix of skepticism and curiosity on their faces. "Today, we invite you to share the stories of those who are no longer with us. Each heart that beats here carries memories, and every flower blooms for those we've lost." Her words hung in the air, palpable and tender. Gasps of surprise echoed. Some people nodded in understanding, while others exchanged uneasy glances. But beneath it all, there was hope, a shared pulse of humanity that connected them all. Just as she felt they were beginning to connect, a voice pierced through the crowd. "What do you know about our tradition?" Sarah's heart sunk as she recognized the tone, her father's loyal but critical voice. The crowd shifted anxiously, tension rising. The moment felt thick with emotion. Was she ready to stand against the weight of her father's expectations? Would she turn back now, retreat to safety? As she locked eyes with her father, she felt a surge of defiance rise within her. "No more hiding," she thought. "Today is not just about what you know or don't know," she replied, her voice stronger than she expected. "It's about healing, coming together, and learning from one another. We can create something beautiful if we allow ourselves to be vulnerable." The silence thickened, a collective intake of breath. Would they accept her call to open hearts? Would her father see her as she truly was, brave and unyielding in the face of tradition? Amidst the uncertainty, the lanterns began to glow brighter as if encouraging her. But then, another voice spoke up, louder this time. "Are you really ready to face the consequences?" The question hung heavily in the air, simmering with possibilities. What would be her choice now? The festival was alive, but so were the doubts and fears shadowing her. Would she back away, or would she take a step forward into the unknown to embrace the healing that awaited? All eyes on her, the moment of truth stood in balance. The air was thick with a mix of anticipation and apprehension. Sarah felt the weight of the moment pressing down on her, a tangible force. Would her father's words derail everything she hoped to build? She steadied herself, clinging to the flickering light of the lanterns around her. They seemed to pulse with quiet encouragement, casting shadows that danced like her racing heart. "Ready?" she whispered to herself, fighting against the doubt looming large in her mind. She could feel the crowd's eyes boring into her, their uncertainty reflected in the faces of her neighbors. The sounds of children giggling faded into a hush as they all waited for her response. "I am ready," she finally declared, a swell of determination surging through her. "Ready to honor our lost ones and embrace the love that connects us all." The silence became palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. Sarah's father stood with arms crossed, an expression of disapproval etched on his face. Yet she sensed something deeper, confusion, perhaps even curiosity. flickering behind his stern gaze. She wondered if, despite his tough exterior, he could feel the aching need for connection that filled the air. Sharing our stories doesn't diminish our traditions. She pressed on, her voice gaining strength. It honors them. Just think, what if we each shared a moment of love? A cherished memory? Could be healing. Around her, Sarah noticed small reactions, eyes glistening with unshed tears, heads nodding at the notion of reconciliation. Bringing warmth to those precious, fleeting memories seemed to galvanize them. Then a voice broke the silence, soft yet steady. I lost my grandfather last year. It was Mrs. Chun, an older woman who ran the grocery store down the street. Her voice trembled as she stepped forward, holding a paper lantern. He always told me the world was full of spirits watching us, celebrating as long as we remember them. The crowd leaned in, captivated. He loved gardening. He would make the most beautiful roses. I'd like to share that. A ripple of murmurs followed, and then another voice joined in, the young boy from earlier, now bold enough to express himself. My grandma used to bake cookies, and we would eat them while telling each other stories as if a dam had burst. More people began to share. Sarah stepped back, her heart swelling as the weight of their combined memories floated through the air. She could feel the atmosphere shift. Tales of love, loss, and laughter entwined like a vibrant tapestry. Even her father's brows began to soften, and the glimmer of understanding shone in his eyes as each story unfolded. Each voice added to the rush of emotion that filled the square, creating a circle of connection that encircled them all. Just before Sarah could relax, the booming voice of a town selectman cut through the warmth. What you're doing is risky. It's different. His brow furrowed, exposing his reservations. Tradition should be upheld, not changed on a whim. A collective silence engulfed them again. Fear nervously danced among the crowd. Would this be the moment that turned the tide? Sarah took a deep breath, drawing strength from the stories that had already been shared. But what is tradition if not love passed down through generations? It evolves just like we do. Isn't that the beauty of it? Her words lingered in the cool air, an invitation to consider the depth of their connections rather than the constraints of what had always been. Would they accept the new paths she was suggesting? A moment of tension hung before the town selectman. Conflicted, stepped back slightly, giving room to the murmurs of agreement reverberating through the crowd. But just as hope began to rise, a voice from the back shouted, "It's not enough to just talk. We need to do something to honor them." Before she could react, a vision began to form, perhaps a symbolic act that could merge their traditions. But would she have the bravery to suggest it? As Sarah stood amidst the spectacle, the flowering stories, illuminated hearts, her heart raced. What if this was the catalyst for change? Could they truly come together, uniting traditions for a new generation? The festival pulsed with energy around her as new possibilities swirled in the air. But now she had to decide. Would she take the leap and suggest a way forward? Or would fear hold her back? With eyes drifting from her father to the crowd, she found herself at another crossroads, the festival brimming with anticipation. What would she choose? The moment stretched thin, and all eyes locked onto Sarah. She felt the weight of 1,000 emotions, every heart in the crowd waiting for her next words. The flickering lanterns above seemed to whisper possibilities, coaxing her to articulate the vision blossoming in her mind. What if she started, her voice trembling slightly, "We created a community garden. A place where we can plant flowers in memory of those we've lost?" Gasps of surprise filled the air. Sarah's heart beat louder, drum-like in her ears, as she pressed on. Every flower would represent a story, a life. We could tend to this garden together, share our memories as we plant seeds and watch new life grow. It would be our way of honoring them. Mrs. Chun's eyes widened with surprise, and Sarah caught the glint of tears streaming from her cheeks. The young boy with the cookie memories glanced around, his innocent face lighting up at the idea. Slowly, others began to nod, murmurs of approval rising in a wave as the proposal settled into the crowd's consciousness. The town selectman's frown deepened, seeming out of place amidst the building excitement. A garden? He scoffed, but even in his doubt, his tone was less harsh than before. And what? Just plant some flowers and call it a day? Memories last because we keep traditions alive. Sarah met his gaze, grounding herself in the community's energy flowing around her. Traditions are beautiful, but we can create new ones. What if they live on in how we choose to remember? This garden can be our foundation, a living legacy. With every sentence, she felt the tension in the air lift, replaced by something lighter, more hopeful. People began to brainstorm ideas. Across the crowd, someone shouted, "We can have a festival each year to celebrate the garden." Excitement buzzed through her like electricity, sparking laughter and ideas. A festival surrounding shared memories, a celebration of life, both past and present. They could cook together, tell stories around a fire, dance under the stars while surrounded by flowers that connected them all. Then, she caught sight of her father. He stood at the edge, arms uncrossed now, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of something other than disapproval on his face. Was it acceptance? Maybe he said, hesitating, "Maybe there is something to this garden. You can combine our traditions with memories." His voice wavered with a hint of vulnerability. "But we need to stay true to our roots. It won't be the same if we forget the old ways." Sarah's heart soared at his willingness to engage. "It will be a way to remember both. Dad, our past will be the soil nourishing the blooms of our future." A ripple of agreement swept through the crowd as they joined in the conversation. "I can help with the planting," someone offered. "Count me in for the cooking," chimed another, enthusiasm bubbling. Exciting ideas blossomed like spring flowers, filling the crowd with possibilities. Sarah lost herself in smiles and shared laughter, feeling warmth swell in her chest. But she couldn't ignore the weight of doubt creeping back in. Would they have it in them to see this through? Could they find joy while keeping their traditions intact? As the conversations bubbled around her, Sarah felt both electric and grounded, teetering on the edge of transformation for her town, her family, and herself. Just as the last notes of laughter began to settle, another voice rang out, steady and severe. "And what if it fails? What will that mean for us?" Sarah turned, her heart racing once more. The question hung heavy in the air, a shadow threatening to dim the bright light they had ignited. With everyone watching, silent and expectant, she realized the answer could shape everything moving forward. But would she find the courage to confront the fear of failure that loomed like a dark cloud? Determined, she stepped forward, ready to respond. The festival flared with energy around her. Each heartbeat echoed the stories that needed to be told. The moment of truth was here. What would she say? "Every idea carries a risk," Sarah began, steadying her voice as she took a deep breath. "But isn't that what makes them worth pursuing? When we allow fear to stop us, we miss out on the chance to create something beautiful. This garden isn't just about planting flowers. It's about planting hope. It's about greening the spaces where memories linger and nurturing the connections we have with one another." As she spoke, she noticed the crowd leaning in, their faces reflecting a range of emotions. Curiosity, anxiety, hope, each one connected to the others through shared experiences. "We've all struggled with grief," Sarah continued, finding strength in her own truth. "We've experienced loss, and it's never easy. But through this garden, we can transform our pain into something that binds us, something that honors those we love. What if we saw failure not as an endpoint but as a stepping stone to doing better next time? We're not just building a garden. We're sowing the seeds of resilience." Some began to nod in agreement, and she could see her father's brow furrow in thought. He was still quiet, but she sensed his shift. The town selectman shifted uneasily but didn't interject. Instead, he seemed caught in the tide of the crowd's mounting excitement. "What if we start small?" offered Mrs. Chun, her voice warm and inviting. "We could dedicate just one plot to the town's memories. See how it goes. If it thrives, then we expand." Others voiced their support, a chorus of affirmations ringing through the air. "Yes, a small plot first," someone chimed. Sarah felt a spark leap to life inside her. Exactly. This is not just a garden. It's a test of our spirit, a chance to show who we are as a community. Each flower will tell a story, and we'll learn to stand together. This garden needs us, and we need it. Imagine our children coming here to hear the stories of those who came before them. The crowd began to respond with renewed vigor, their earlier doubts replaced with a sense of purpose. Ideas flooded the air, bouncing back and forth like a buoyant echo. Someone suggested painting stones with the names of loved ones, and another proposed creating a memory bench where people could sit and reflect. Sarah's heart raced with the joy of this budding collaboration. Yet, amidst all the excitement, she felt a pinch of anxiety. What if she couldn't uphold the weight of this dream? As the discussions continued, she caught a few familiar faces. The young boy with cookie memories eagerly sketched a rough design of the garden, his imagination flowing freely. An older woman spoke about creating an annual ceremony to honor the garden's opening, her voice filled with enthusiasm. Then it hit her. In the midst of all this energy, her doubt seemed distant. The very act of gathering, the planning, the shared laughter, and even the little voices filled with excitement, these were what made a community thrive. Suddenly, Sarah's father stepped forward. The gentle resolve in his eyes surprised her. "Let us do it together," he said, a softness in his voice. "As a family and as a town. I'll help keep our traditions alive while we embrace this new venture. But we need to be in it together," he emphasized, looking over at the townsfolk. The crowd erupted into cheers, all doubt eclipsed by a collective hope. She realized then that they were ready. "Together," Sarah echoed, beaming as she took her father's hand. But just as they finally seemed united, another voice drifted through the crowd, not harsh, but questioning, laced with uncertainty. "What if the weather doesn't cooperate? What if the flowers don't grow? Will we just be left with disappointment?" A hush fell over the crowd. Sarah felt a shiver of doubt creep back in. How would she counter this fresh concern? What if they embraced change but also faced setbacks? Standing there, she knew this was also part of their journey. And yet, her heart thumped in anticipation, waiting for the words that could dispel the tension. Would she find the right response to lift the cloud of concern, or would the doubt dampen the spark they had ignited? The silence was thick, palpable, as the crowd turned to Sarah, eyes wide with uncertainty. She could feel the weight of their gaze, the unspoken fears hovering in the air. This was a pivotal moment, one that could either fortify their growing connection or unravel the threads she'd so carefully woven. Taking a deep breath, Sarah gathered her thoughts, her mind racing. What if the weather doesn't cooperate? What if the flowers don't grow? She echoed, trying to validate the worry. Those are absolutely valid concerns. But what if we didn't let the fear of what might go wrong stop us from trying? There was a murmur in the crowd, some people nodding, others shifting uncomfortably. Sarah pressed on, urgency creeping into her voice. Every garden faces obstacles. A storm may knock down a few branches, but that doesn't mean the tree is dead. It means we have to nurture it more, find ways to protect it, grow stronger in the process. Her father's hand squeezed hers, grounding her as she looked around the group. Together we can weather any storm. We can create a place that holds memories, that speaks of resilience, even when it's hard. For every spring that brings blooming flowers, there will always be winters that test us. And if we open our hearts, every setback will be a lesson, not a failure. A young woman near the front raised her hand. "I lost my father last year. He loved gardening. I thought I'd never be able to enjoy it again, but seeing this community rally, I feel the hope you're talking about, Sarah." Her voice trembled, yet there was a fire behind it. "I want to help honor him here. That's it." Sarah's heart lifted. "We honor our loved ones through this garden, and that love will be what carries us through the bad weather and the tough days. No flower blooms without a little rain." The crowd erupted into conversation, sharing stories of their loved ones who had passed, their words mixed with encouragement. Ideas of how to personalize the garden swirled around them like colorful seeds caught in the wind. The weight of uncertainty still hung in the air, but it began to shift, becoming lighter. The shared stories dissolved the harsh edges of worry. There were still doubts, but now they felt less like burdens and more like challenges to overcome together. Then Mrs. Chun raised her voice above the chatter. What if we have a backup plan? We prepare for the weather that could really help ease some worries. Let us brainstorm how to protect the garden if things don't go our way. Yes. A plan B, chimed in someone from the back, a wave of energy sweeping through the crowd. Feeling buoyed by this engagement, Sarah realized they were in a truly transformative moment. The crowd wasn't just looking for affirmation. They were ready to discuss solutions, to collaborate on overcoming the challenges that lay ahead. Sarah smiled, her anxiety fading. Yes, that's the spirit. She turned to the crowd, her eyes bright and determined. Let us commit to not just creating beauty, but a place to learn while we grow together. Yet, amidst the rising excitement, as she absorbed the joyful faces around her, a new thought gripped her heart. What if they didn't just build a garden but a legacy? A space that continued to embody their connection to each other and those they lost? The sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the street, and Sarah felt a strange thrill race down her spine. An idea was forming, but would they all be willing to explore this new direction together? She reached for her father's hand again. What if we go one step further? What if we turn this garden into a tradition? Something our town can look forward to for years to come. As she spoke, she caught a glimpse of her father's proud smile, the crowd's energy shifting toward eager anticipation. But just as excitement surged, another resounding voice cut through the tension, challenging the notion. And what if we're not ready for that? The room fell silent once more, and Sarah felt a new weight settle in. Was she stepping too far too fast, or was this the leap of faith they really needed? The tension in the room lingered, thick as fog. Sarah shifted on her feet, uncertainty swirling in her stomach. She looked into the faces surrounding her, searching for understanding. The challenge laid out was valid. What if they were rushing into something that felt monumental? But then again, wasn't that the nature of growth? Her voice steadied, cutting through the stillness. I know it feels overwhelming, she began, meeting the eyes of the person who questioned her. But isn't that the beauty of stepping into the unknown? Each new tradition starts somewhere. It's a journey, not destination. Together we can guide each other. The woman who had spoken up nodded slowly, her expression softening. The air, filled with hushed whispers, began to unfurl again. Just isn't that what they were there for? To share a journey, to create something beautiful with honest intentions? And what if we start smaller? A man offered from the back, a shadow flickering over his face as he spoke. Maybe we can set a date, an annual celebration to come together and remember. We can build the garden step by step. Yes. The crowd seemed to rally around the suggestion. Sarah felt a swell of hope pushing against the weight of doubt. That could be our first step. A day to cultivate both plants and memories. We can invite everyone to bring something that reminds them of their loved ones. Nods of agreement rippled through the assembly like waves. The fear they had felt moments before was transforming into talk of possibilities, threads weaving together a shared vision. Sarah couldn't help but smile. And we can gather food and stories. Maybe we even share our favorite recipes, combining them here, in this space, among the flowers, making it a living memorial. Laughter bubbled up, an infectious sound that lifted spirits. Felt like a breath of fresh air had blown into the room. Someone chimed in, we could even create a memory wall, where anyone can hang up photos or write stories of those they want to honor. A place where we can gather our memories and honor legacies. The chatter turned into plans, voices rising with excitement and energy. Sarah felt exhilarated. They had moved from hesitance to hope, creating something that could bind them together as a community. Okay, so, who wants to help start the planning? She called, enthusiasm lacing her words. Hands shot up, the room buzzing with ideas and laughter as people began to sign up for roles, plans sketching out before her eyes. Each person seemed to have a piece of this world, a role to play, and amidst the laughter, Sarah caught a glimpse of how far they could go together. Then, just as optimism filled the air like the scent of blooming blossoms, a shadow crossed Sarah's heart. What if real fears, deeper fears, would still threaten their progress? What challenges lay ahead that they couldn't predict? As the laughter kept ringing in her ears, a spark of doubt kindled. How would they handle the storms she had spoken about? Her father leaned in closer, his presence a calming force. You've got this, Sarah. You're forging ahead, and your heart is guiding others. His laughter faded into the backdrop as she stole a glance at the crowd. What if their enthusiasm turned into panic when adversity struck? The night began to settle, but the flicker of a new idea ignited within her. What if our first meeting, she began tentatively, focused not just on the celebrations, but also on preparing ourselves for the challenges we might face? She glanced around, sensing the ripple of thought that came with her words. Was it truly a way forward? As curiosity filled the room again, she knew they were only beginning to carve the path of their journey. The seeds of their mission were planted, but what could blossom when they faced their first true test? Sarah, I think that's a great idea. A voice called from the front. It was Emily, the woman who had first voiced her reservations. We need to be ready for anything. Let us not just focus on the good times. We should talk about how we can support each other when things get tough. Her words hung in the air, echoing Sarah's earlier thoughts. Suddenly, the room felt charged with purpose. Faces turned toward Sarah, awaiting her response. Exactly, she affirmed, grateful for Emily's understanding. Let us create a safe space where we can share not just joy, but also fears and vulnerabilities. Maybe we can have a section during our planning meetings dedicated to discussing what could go wrong and how we can support each other through that. There was a murmur of agreement, and Sarah felt relief wash over her. This was the moment she had hoped for, the moment when they could truly become a community. Let us do a circle in our next meeting, she suggested, her heart racing with the anticipation of what could come next. We can share, reflect, and brainstorm solutions together. Each of our voices is important. We need to hear them all. The murmurs grew louder, excitement simmering beneath the surface. Eyes sparkled with enthusiasm for this new venture, hope mingling with determination. Although they were still unsure of what lay ahead, there was a collective feeling that they could create a solid foundation. A woman in the back, Claire, raised her hand again. We should also bring in stories or themes. Each meeting could focus on a different aspect of coping with loss. That way, we can keep the conversation flowing and build on previous discussions. Great idea, Sarah exclaimed. Having a theme might also bring depth to our garden. Each memory could represent a different emotion or experience. The concept of intertwining their stories with the garden grew roots, taking hold of their imaginations. They spoke of pathways to represent journeys, benches to symbolize rest stops along the way, and flowers blooming in honor of those they had lost. Laughter broke out again, this time mingled with tears. Sarah felt a wave of warmth as the realization that they were forging connections deepened. You know, she said, there is something beautiful in choosing to remember and also preparing ourselves. It makes every moment stronger and more meaningful. Doesn't it? As the night wore on, her father stood up, clinking his glass to gather everyone's attention. Let us raise our glasses. Here's to constructing a garden of memories. May our strengths outweigh our doubts, and may we uplift each other through every storm. Faces brightened with smiles, glasses clinked, and Sarah could see the light in the room brighten. Hope throbbed at the heart of their gathering, beating in rhythm with their laughter and assurances. Yet, a part of her could not shake the feeling of an impending test. After several minutes of cheers and shared dreams, the energy shifted subtly. There was an undercurrent of something more palpable now, a shared awareness that the journey was just beginning. What if we took this first meeting to heart? Sarah mused quietly. What if it becomes a reflection of us fully embracing our stories? Not just the easy ones, but also the hard ones? Suddenly, she remembered why her heart had felt heavier before. What if they faced challenges that tore at the fabric of what they were creating? In that moment, beneath the laughter and joy, she sensed a silent weight, a question left lingering. Would they truly be ready for the storms, when grief once again crashed into their lives, and how would they stand together through it? Surrounded by hope yet shadowed by anticipation, Sarah couldn't help but wonder if this journey would bring them closer, or if it would expose the cracks hidden beneath. What unexpected challenges would test their resolve? As the evening drew on and the laughter mingled with deeper discussions, she felt the energy shift yet again. A new level of connection was burgeoning, but so too were unasked questions lingering just beneath the surface. What happens when the excitement fades and reality sets in? As Sarah took a deep breath, the silence pressed again, thick with the knowledge that the real task lay ahead, and she was determined to face it whatever it may be together. Sarah awoke the next day to sunlight streaming through her window, a gentle reminder of hope for what lay ahead. She stretched and felt a mixture of excitement and anxiety swirling inside her. The meeting about the Garden of Memories was just around the corner, and she wondered if it could be as impactful as she envisioned. As she sipped her coffee, she thought about the conversations that had sparked that connection. The laughter, the tears, the shared vulnerability. What would come of their dreams? Would they meet their own expectations? The day dragged on, anticipation hanging in the air. When evening arrived, she found herself surrounded by warm, familiar faces once more. People trickled in, each bringing their unique blend of energy into the room. It was as if their very presence was a thread, weaving a tapestry of stories that would soon come together. "Welcome back, everyone. I'm so glad to see you all here," Sarah began. A few smiles greeted her, along with a soft murmur of greetings. She gathered everyone into a circle, feeling the shared warmth as they sat knee to knee. Felt safe. Felt right. Each person's presence reminded her that they were about to embark on something profound. Claire kicked off the discussion with a touching story of her grandmother. "She used to tell me that grief is like a garden," she said softly. "You plant the seeds of sorrow, and as time goes by, you nurture them with love and memories. In time, flowers bloom." Her voice wavered, but the sentiment hit home, and there were nods of agreement from the group. Then, Emily shared how her own loss felt like a heavy stone, weighing her down. "At times, I struggle to lift it, even with my friends surrounding me," she admitted, voice shaking. "I want to feel their support, but I also feel like I must carry this alone." Those words hung in the air, a reminder of the struggles that many carried in silence. Sarah felt the quiet yet profound power of the room as more stories unfolded, revealing the complexities of loss and love, offering both solace and raw vulnerability. As the meeting continued, moments of silence punctuated the discussions, each pause laden with unspoken fears and hopes. It became clear that amidst the shared pain, they all sought the same thing: a way to move forward together. After a particularly heavy exchange, Sarah leaned in. "What if we designated a day for everyone to visit our garden? A dedicated time to reflect, to share these memories, to witness the growth and healing of our community together?" A spark of excitement lit the air, and people began to raise their hands with suggestions and ideas. They envisioned a day filled with remembrance stories from family members, songs that brought smiles and tears, and activities that honored those they had lost. As the energy grew, Sarah couldn't shake the thought that beneath the camaraderie, there lay deeper currents of fear. What if this day didn't go as planned? What if emotions overflowed, or someone broke down and felt lost? The sun dipped low outside, casting an orange glow that crept into the room, mirroring their emotions bright yet heavy. Just as they began to map out their plans in excitement, a distant voice interrupted the flow of thoughts. "What if someone can't make it?" A man in the back asked quietly, almost hesitantly. "What if we try and fail?" His words hung like a cloud, heavy and waiting for rain. Sarah stared into the eyes of her friends, searching for reassurance. Would they really face that storm together? As tension settled around her, Sarah clenched her fists, her heartbeat echoing loud in her ears. Could this really be a space where fear and vulnerability coexisted with hope? The evening had layered their connections deeper, yet risks lingered like shadows. How would they weather the fallout of pain when it arrived? Each gaze towards her pleaded for an answer. Would they stand together, or would the first gust of wind tear them apart? As the meeting drew to a close, Sarah felt the weight of possibility and uncertainty hang in the air. What challenges would emerge ahead? Would the garden of memories blossom beautifully through their days of struggle, or would it falter? With every heart thumping in unison, Sarah knew they were only just beginning their journey. The real test awaited. She took a breath. The silence thick with anticipation and the unfinished story hung heavily, making her wonder if they truly comprehended the power of what lay ahead. The day of the garden dedication dawned with a crisp autumn chill. Sarah awoke early, her heart racing with nervous energy. Today was the culmination of all the hope, fears, and dreams shared over these past weeks. Today, they would see if their efforts could really bind the community together like a vibrant quilt of memories. As she stepped outside, she was greeted by the golden light of dawn spilling over the town. It felt as if the sun itself conspired to bless their venture. She arrived at the plot, her eyes brimming with anticipation. They had worked so hard to prepare every flower bed, each stone and path shaped by the hands of those who carried the stories of loved ones lost. Families started to gather, their smiles bright, but beneath that joy, she could sense the weight of grief lingering within many of them. As Sarah looked around, she saw her neighbors, some she had known for years, others just met. Each face wore an expression of curiosity and longing. Would this day truly honor their memories, or would sorrow creep in like an unwelcome shadow? Claire arrived first, a basket of yellow daisies cradled in her arms. "These are for the garden, to symbolize joy in remembrance," she said, her voice warm but touched with a hint of vulnerability. "Perfect," Sarah replied, her own heart swelling with gratitude. "Thank you for everything you've shared. Your stories have inspired so many." One by one, families began to bring their plants, their memories woven into every root and flower. Emily showed up, a small framed photo in hand, a treasure of her grandmother smiling brightly at a garden party. "This is my piece," she whispered, glancing around at others as if the weight of her trauma rested softly in her palm. As they began to plant, the atmosphere shifted from one of apprehension to a gentle hum of hope. Each flower sunk into the earth became a testament of life, joy, and connections formed across generations. Sarah stepped back, watching the garden take shape, alive with emotion and laughter. But then, as they were digging and planting, a sudden gust sent a chill through the air. Clouds gathered ominously on the horizon. Sarah's heart sank. The skies darkened above the hopeful scenes of gardening as soft raindrops began to fall, catching the crowd by surprise. Gasps echoed around her, mingling with chuckles of disbelief. Some turned away, disheartened, but others remained, their expressions stoic in the face of nature's unpredictable moods. "Maybe it's a sign," someone whispered. Sarah felt a familiar wave of doubt crash over her. The doubt she had fought so hard against threatened to overwhelm her plans. She glanced at her father across the garden, his weathered face raised to the sky, observing the rain fall with an intricate mix of concern and wonder. She knew this was the moment where everything would either blossom or falter. "Listen," she called out, her voice cutting through the dim umbrella of clouds. "This garden isn't just about what blooms above the soil. It's about what we carry inside. Our stories, our love will continue even through storms. Let us not let a little rain wash away what we've built." The crowd quieted, eyes turning to her, searching for that spark she hoped to ignite. "We knew this journey would have challenges. We knew we'd face storms together. But isn't it how our flowers will grow, fed by the very rain that threatens them?" Some nodded, the spirit rekindling among them. Slowly, laughter rose as they began to gather beneath nearby trees, sheltering from the rain but not retreating from their mission. "Let us share. Let us gather until the rain clears. This is part of the memory we'll cherish," someone shouted, lifting their voice like a banner. As the rain fell heavier, Sarah could feel the tightness in her chest soften. They became a community. Stories flew through the air in waves, each tale woven together with laughter and shared tears. The garden might be drenched, but their spirits lifted like the petals of flowers catching the light again. reflecting resilience. The rain eventually eased, revealing a vibrant cascade of post-storm colors, drenched flowers sparkling and radiant against the sun's reemergence. The garden stood there in all its shifting hues, filled with life wrapped in love and memories. Just then, Sarah's father stepped forward, a small smile breaking the years of tension between them. "You've done well, Sarah. You brought everyone together, and this garden will grow just like you envisioned." His words pulled at her heart, and they stood crying happy tears, under a shared umbrella of understanding. Hope glimmered anew as the last remnants of doubt faded away. Around them, the townsfolk stood shoulder to shoulder, planting their little pieces of memory in the shared earth. The garden had transformed. It became more than just a collection of flora. It emerged as a living testament to their collective journey through loss, love, and healing. As dusk fell and the first stars twinkled overhead, laughter echoed in the air and hearts glowed warm with connection. It wasn't perfection, there would be hurdles yet to overcome, but they were ready. They had begun forging new paths, planting seeds for future generations. "Let us make this a tradition," Sarah said with resolve. "Let us commit to nurturing this garden and each other through everything to come. And we will," someone shouted, "because we're in this together." Embracing the moment, Sarah realized this was the triumph they had all hoped for, a space cultivated not just for the cherished memories of the past, but one that thrived on the strength of community, brimming with love, resilience, and connection. It was more than a garden. It was a family bound by shared stories. And as the night drew on, Sarah could feel the atmosphere alive and radiant like their flowers, blooming brilliantly in the heart of their small town. Now more than ever, she felt a surge of hope. This was just the beginning. If you felt inspired by Sarah's journey, you need to subscribe now to catch the next exclusive stories. Don't wait not even one more second. Leave a like now to help us spread this message, and comment below your feelings about this transformative experience. Share instantly with at least 5 friends who need to see this change. This is the moment to show your support.